Elizabeth. I'm very glad to be here with you this week. The scripture that we're looking at this morning is a scripture that talks about making a difference. It's a scripture that talks about God making a difference, but it also talks about us making a difference. And the real stress of this passage is about us making a difference when it seems like we are in the greatest defeat. When it seems like everything has gone wrong, this passage of Scripture is a word of hope for those moments. The summer before my senior year in high school, I experienced a time like this. I was involved in a team that was cleaning up a children's park in Washington, D.C. Most of the areas around D.C. are beautiful, but not this area. This park had been destroyed. It was overgrown. The playground equipment had been smashed up. There was graffiti all over that might as well have said, "This park is ours. All children stay out." My part of cleaning this up was to take down some vines that had overgrown the fence. And this would have been fine, except that I had a thorn in my arm. I took it out, and this was the wrong decision, because at that point I opened my bloodstream to all of the poisonous vines that were around me. And within a week, I was covered from neck to toe in a poison sumac-like rash. It was a complete disaster. So for the rest of the summer, I was clothed all the way to my wrists and all the way to my ankles to keep from giving people nightmares. The real problem, though, was that within the same week of time that it took me to develop this horrible poison sumac rash, the park that we had cleaned up, we knew would also be covered in trash again. We knew that it would be destroyed once again. So what was the purpose of what we did in this moment that seemed like defeat? I had given of my own well-being and sacrificed of myself to do this. How was this a victory? And how could God use this as a victory for me and for the people who were blessed by this? The passage we have for today is a passage that speaks to this victory. The author wants to tell a story of victory, but has to begin in a story of apparent defeat. The picture that the author paints starts with a mental image like this. There's a set of strata in the universe, and at the top of these strata is God, the creator of all things. And for the purposes of this scripture passage and of this picture, the space that's taken up under God is a space where the angels are. And right underneath the angels, just a little lower than the angels, is where we find humanity. Jesus makes a really interesting choice in this. It's a choice that looks like defeat. For all time, Jesus had been up here on this level of this strata at creation. Jesus was a part of creation. Creation was made for Jesus. But Jesus opted to jump below the strata of the angels, the people who are the angels who served God, and join us on this lower level where we are. It was a very interesting choice that looked like a defeat. This isn't the motion of the upwardly mobile. It is the motion of someone who does something that looks like defeat for the hope of something good to come out of it. To tell the story of victory, the author here begins with this defeat. The people who received this book were people who were a lot like us. They were people who were trying to do the right thing, who were struggling to do the right thing, but they had a problem. They were probably in the second generation of the church, and they were trying to serve Jesus, but they had never seen Jesus face to face. They are people who had inherited the story from their literal parents or from their parents in the faith, but not people who had walked with Jesus, who had seen Jesus in the flesh, who had witnessed the crucifixion. And so they were struggling to serve Jesus. They were suffering because of it, but they didn't have an image of Jesus that was strong enough to help them face the defeats that they had in their lives. They didn't know the Jesus who was strong enough for them. And so the author of Hebrews wrote this book to encourage them, to offer them the truth about Jesus that was strong enough for everything that they needed to face. And this is a very natural way for us to feel as well. People who have not seen Jesus face to face, we try to serve, but we end up asking questions like, is Jesus actually enough for what it is that I face in my life? We ask the question, is Jesus actually enough? The author of this book in Hebrews wanted to tell the people then and wants to tell us now, yes, Jesus is enough, because Jesus is the only one who can take our defeats and make them into victories for God. Jesus dove down through the strata of the universe to be with us where we are, in order to give us an example of victory over every defeat that we could face in our lives. Jesus faced everything that we face. He faced the stresses of everyday life. He faced the worst insults of people. He faced the worst death that was available at that time in history, and he defeated it all. And one of the hugely significant things about the resurrection is the power of Jesus to defeat absolutely everything that the world had to throw at him and that the world has to throw at us. And then, for Jesus' humility, God rewarded him with the greatest place of honor. And God brought him back up through the strata of the universe to have a name, we're told, that is above all other names. He was rewarded for this act of great humility and love. Now, this is a great story. It's a great ending. It sounds like a wonderful and inspiring ending to a spiritual story. But this Jesus would not be enough for us if this was the only Jesus that existed. And this wasn't the happy ending that Jesus wanted either. For Jesus, and I find this amazing, the only happy ending that can be is one where you and I are in it. It's not a happy ending for Jesus unless we are there. It's like the hero defeating the enemy and then leaving his best friend behind to fend for herself. The purpose of Jesus' journey was to come and take us and save us and bring us to where we are supposed to be. He came to rescue his friends, and he came to be like us and carve a way for us to be with him so that we could be adopted as brothers and sisters. This passage says that Jesus is not ashamed. He is honored to call us brethren. He is honored to call us brothers and sisters. And this is the happy ending that Jesus is looking for. He is honored to stand with us now and face everything that we face and empower us through the things that we face. Jesus went to impossible lengths in the real world in real time so that now he can be with us in our real world and in our real time, providing us with everything that we need to turn our defeats into God's most amazing victories.